Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down big ideas.
You have almost certainly heard this line before, but what does it actually mean? I mean, for centuries, people have gone back and forth on it. Is it just a simple rule for separating church and state? A command to, pay your taxes? Or is it something else entirely? Maybe even a hidden call for revolution?
Okay, let's really get into this, because the story behind this quote is just a masterclass in political maneuvering. Seriously. This isn't really about money, it's about power, it's about loyalty, and it's about a question so perfectly designed that any answer should have been fatal. So our story kicks off with a conspiracy. The source material tells us that the religious establishment in Jerusalem, we're talking the high priest, the elders, the whole Sanhedrin council, they were feeling pretty threatened by Jesus. They felt like he was challenging their authority and they wanted him neutralized. But they had to be smart about it.
And this is where the plot really gets good. To pull this off, the Sanhedrin put together a team of, bitter enemies. This wasn't just some random group. It was this bizarre, engineered alliance between two factions that absolutely could not stand each other. And this comparison just lays it all out perfectly. On one side, you've got the Pharisees. These guys were the religious purists, super respected by the people for being all about Jewish law and resisting Roman influence. You can think of them as the opposition party. And on the other side, the Herodians. They were political collaborators, totally in bed with King Herod and, by extension, the Roman Empire that kept him in power. These two groups agreed on basically nothing, except for one thing. Jesus had to go.
So this strange bedfellows alliance sets the stage for what they think is the perfect trap. The whole strategy was to force Jesus to publicly pick a side on the single most toxic issue in the country, knowing that whatever he said would lead to his ruin. They start with flattery. A classic move, right? Trying to lower his guard. They're like, "Teacher, you're a man of truth. You don't care about popular opinion." They're basically saying, "You're too honest to duck this one, so give us a straight answer." And then they drop the bomb. Is it lawful to pay the Roman tax? And you got to understand, this wasn't just about money. This was the most divisive political issue of the day.
And you can see the genius of the trap right here. If he says yes, pay the tax, the Pharisees will immediately paint him as a traitor, a Roman collaborator. His credibility with the people, gone. But if he says no, don't pay the tax, the Herodians have him. That's sedition, that's treason, a crime punishable by crucifixion. It was a political checkmate.
But instead of answering their yes or no question, Jesus just completely reframes the entire debate. He sees right through their little game.
He just calls them out. Right there. He exposes their flattery for what it is and refuses to step into the snare they so carefully laid out for him. He's not going to play their game.
And then he makes this simple but incredibly powerful request that just flips the whole dynamic of the conversation. He doesn't start philosophizing, he asks for a physical object, the very coin they use to pay the tax.
Okay, now this part is so crucial. The coin they hand him is a Roman denarius. And according to the source material, this wasn't just money, it was a tiny piece of imperial propaganda. It had the emperor's face on it, Tiberius Caesar, and an inscription that basically called him the son of a god. For a devout Jew whose first commandment is, "You shall have no other gods before me," even carrying this coin was, deeply blasphemous. So he's holding this politically and religiously loaded object in his hand, and he flips the question right back on his accusers. He asks, whose image and inscription is this?
And they have to admit it. They have no choice. Caesar's. In that one moment, the trap starts to turn on them. See, just by carrying the coin, they've already admitted they participate in the very Roman system they're using to try and trap him.
And there it is, the brilliant escape. This statement was politically untouchable. He didn't say, "Don't pay," so the Herodians had nothing on him. But he also didn't explicitly say, "Pay." He framed it as giving back, something that already belonged to Caesar anyway. He completely sidestepped their trap. His opponents were left with absolutely nothing. Zero basis for any accusation. The text literally says they were amazed at him. They came with this perfect, airtight trap and just left in stunned silence. He completely outmaneuvered them.
But the deeper meaning here is this radical reordering of what matters. Jesus is essentially saying, you're all obsessed with this coin, this little piece of metal. As the source puts it, things like money and political power are just part of a symbolic order, a system with fictional, man-made value. Caesar's world is just coins and power games, and when you get right down to it, that's all pretty trivial compared to what really matters.
And this is where the story stops being just about ancient history and becomes a real challenge for all of us. This whole encounter isn't just about taxes. It forces us to ask ourselves what we truly value today. The source material argues that all these systems we serve, whether it's political power or national identity or the god of money, they're just symbolic orders we live inside. They feel incredibly real and powerful, but they are not the ultimate reality. They are Caesar's thing.
And that really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? A coin is just a piece of metal. It's only valuable because some temporary ruler stamped his image on it. It represents a fleeting, man-made system.
But a human being, well, that's different. The implied challenge in his answer is this. If the coin goes back to Caesar because it has his image on it, then what about you? The scriptures say that a person is stamped with the image of the divine. Our life, our soul, our conscience, that belongs to a much, much higher order of value.
And that leaves us with this final thought. The story pushes way past the politics of its day to ask a timeless question. In a world that is just full of competing demands from our jobs, our governments, our culture, all the modern-day Caesars, where does our ultimate allegiance really lie? What truly has value, and what are you willing to give back?